Marcus Chun had seen enough alien worlds to know when something was wrong. The distress beacon cut through the static of his ship's communications array like a knife through butter, speaking in the universal emergency frequency that every species in the galaxy recognized. He was 3 days out from the nearest trade station, hauling a cargo hold full of Earth-grown coffee beans that would fetch a decent price in the Centauri markets. The signal came from a small moon orbiting a gas giant in an uninhabited system. Marcus knew he should probably ignore it. Distress calls in empty space usually meant pirates, slavers, or worse. But something about the transmission pattern felt different. It wasn't the aggressive, demanding pulse of a trap. It was weak, almost apologetic, like someone afraid to ask for help. Marcus adjusted his ship's course and pushed the engines harder than he probably should have. The coffee could wait. Someone out there needed help, and despite what his mother used to say about his tendency to stick his nose where it didn't belong, he couldn't just fly past. The source of the signal turned out to be a sleek vessel unlike anything Marcus had seen before. It was beautiful in the way that only the most advanced civilizations could achieve. Smooth curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal, with no visible seams or joints. The ship looked like it had been grown rather than built. But, beautiful or not, it was clearly in trouble. Scorch marks blackened one side, and a slow tumble indicated damaged stabilizers. Marcus hailed the ship on multiple frequencies before getting a response. When it came, the voice was musical, almost like singing, but he could hear the pain underneath the alien words. His translation software kicked in after a few seconds, converting the melody into words he could understand. Unknown vessel. This is Princess Zaratiel of the Etherian Royal Guard. My ship is damaged, and I am injured beyond my people's ability to heal. If you're a friend of the light, please help. Marcus felt his heart skip. A princess. He'd never met royalty before, human or otherwise. But, more importantly, she sounded like she was dying. This is Captain Marcus Chun of the cargo vessel Wanderer. I'm coming aboard to help. Can you lower your shields? There was a long pause. I cannot. My ship's systems are failing. You'll have to dock manually. Manual docking with an unknown alien vessel was dangerous at the best of times. With a tumbling ship, it was practically suicide. But Marcus had never been accused of being overly cautious. He spent the next 20 minutes carefully matching the alien ship's rotation, nudging his own vessel closer until the airlocks could connect. The moment he stepped aboard the alien ship, Marcus knew he was in over his head. The interior was even more stunning than the outside. Walls that seemed to glow with their own inner light, corridors that curve in impossible ways that somehow felt natural. Everything was beautiful, elegant, perfect. It was like stepping into a dream. He found the princess in what looked like a medical bay, though the equipment was unlike anything he'd ever seen. She lay on a bed that seemed to be made of crystallized light, and Marcus had to catch his breath when he saw her. Zaratiel was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin was a pale blue that seemed to shimmer like moonlight on water. Her hair was silver white and moved as if it were underwater, defying gravity in the low-G environment. But it was her eyes that caught him. They were large and violet with a depth that seemed to contain galaxies. Even injured and weak, she was the most beautiful being Marcus had ever seen. "You came," she whispered, and her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I hoped, but I was not certain." Marcus knelt beside her bed, trying not to stare. "What happened? Who did this to you?" "Pirates," she said, and her voice hardened with anger. "They attacked my escort. I managed to escape, but not before." She gestured weakly at her side, and Marcus saw the wound. It was unlike any injury he'd ever seen. Instead of bleeding red like humans, or green like the vegans, or yellow like the Centauri, her wound wept something that looked like liquid starlight. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "My people," Zaratiel continued, "we heal differently than most species. We require compatible essence to regenerate. But there are none of my kind within reach, and I fear I am dying." Marcus felt helpless. He was just a cargo hauler, not a doctor. He had basic medical training, but nothing that would help with alien biology. "Isn't there something I can do? Some way to get you to medical help?" Zaratiel's eyes met his, and he saw something that surprised him. Hope mixed with fear. "There is one possibility, but it is dangerous for you, and I cannot ask it." "Ask what?" "If I can help, I will." She was quiet for a long moment, studying his face. Your species, humans, you are known throughout the galaxy for your adaptability. Your blood, your essence, it has properties that few understand. It is possible that your life force could sustain me long enough to reach help. Marcus didn't hesitate. Take it. Take whatever you need. No. The princess struggled to sit up. You do not understand. If our essences mix, if your life force mingles with mine, the consequences could be unpredictable. For both of us. You could die. Or worse. Marcus was already rolling up his sleeve. Princess, you're dying anyway. And I'm not about to let that happen if there's something I can do about it. He paused, meeting her violet gaze. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? It was a question he would soon regret asking. Zaratil stared at him for a long moment, and he could see emotions warring in her expression. Gratitude, fear, something else he couldn't identify. Finally, she nodded slowly. Very well. But, know this, Marcus Chun of Earth. What we do here will change both of our destinies forever. She guided him to a device that looked like a crystalline tree with silver branches. Marcus placed his arm where she indicated, feeling a brief sting as the bio-interface connected with his bloodstream. On the other side, Zaratil did the same. The moment their blood began to mix in the crystal chamber between them, the universe exploded into light. Marcus felt something that was beyond pain, beyond pleasure, beyond anything he had ever experienced. It was as if every cell in his body was being rewritten, every atom rearranged. He could feel Zaratil's essence flowing into him, and is into her, and for a moment they were not two beings, but something entirely new. When the light faded and the sensation ended, Marcus found himself on the floor, gasping. But he was alive. More than alive. He felt stronger than he ever had before. Across the chamber, Zaratil was sitting up, her wound completely healed, her skin glowing with renewed vitality. But when she looked at him, her eyes were wide with shock and something that might have been fear. What is it? Marcus asked, struggling to his feet. Did it work? It worked, she whispered. But, Marcus, look at your hands. Marcus looked down and nearly fell over again. His hands were glowing with the same soft light that surrounded Zaratil. But more than that, he could feel something new inside him, a power, a capability that hadn't been there before. What happened to me? Zaratil stood slowly, moving with fluid grace. I'm not certain, but I believe, Marcus Chun, that you have become something that has never existed before, a human with Etherian essence. And, if the old stories are true, she paused, her expression growing troubled. What? If the old stories are true, what? If the old stories are true, then you may have just become the most powerful being in the galaxy. Marcus stared at his glowing hands, trying to process what Zaratil had just told him. The most powerful being in the galaxy? That was impossible. He was just a cargo hauler from New Shanghai who had never even finished university. People like him didn't become powerful. They haul coffee beans and try not to get shot by pirates. I think there's been some kind of mistake, he said, flexing his fingers and watching the light pulse beneath his skin. I'm nobody special. I'm just a traitor. Zaratil stepped closer, her violet eyes studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Tell me, Marcus Chun, do you feel different? He was about to deny it when he realized she was right. He did feel different. The fatigue that had been building up over weeks of solo space travel was completely gone. His chronic back pain from years of loading cargo had vanished. Even his vision seemed sharper, clearer. And there was something else, a sense of awareness, as if he could feel the space around him in ways he never had before. Yeah, he admitted, I do feel different. But that doesn't mean he never finished the sentence. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship, and the lighting shifted to an ominous red. Through the walls, Marcus could hear the unmistakable sound of weapons powering up. They have found us, Zaratil said, her voice tight with fear. The same pirates who attacked my escort. They must have been tracking my ship's energy signature. Marcus felt his blood run cold. His own ship was docked to the princess's vessel, which meant they were sitting ducks. How many ships? 5, Zaratil said, checking a display that had materialized in the air before her. Heavy cruisers. My ship has no weapons, and yours is a cargo hauler with barely functioning shields, Marcus finished. We're dead, but even as he said it, something strange was happening. The fear that should have been paralyzing him was being replaced by something else. A calm certainty that was completely unlike his normal panic response to danger. More than that, he found himself instinctively understanding the tactical situation in ways that made no sense for someone who had never served in any military. Not necessarily, he heard himself saying. Your ship may not have weapons, but it has other capabilities, doesn't it? Zaratiel's eyes widened. How did you know that? That information is classified at the highest levels of Etherian society. Marcus didn't know how he knew. The knowledge was just there, as if it had been downloaded directly into his brain. Your people don't build ships with weapons because you don't need them. You build ships that can manipulate space-time itself. That's impossible for you to know. Even most of my own people don't understand our technology at that level. But Marcus was already moving, his hands flying over the crystalline control surfaces of the Etherian ship, as if he had been born to operate them. Somehow, impossibly, he could read the alien symbols, understand the complex energy patterns that flowed through the ship systems like blood through veins. The blood exchange, Zaratiel breathed, watching him work. It has given you access to our genetic memory, our ancestral knowledge. But that should be impossible. No alien species has ever been able to interface with our technology. Well, Marcus said, making final adjustments to the ship's configuration. I guess humans are special after all. Hold on. He activated the ship's primary systems, and reality twisted around them. The sensation was indescribable. Space itself seemed to bend and flow like water, and Marcus felt the pirate ships suddenly become confused as their sensors lost track of their target. To them, it would appear as if the Etherian vessel had simply vanished. In reality, Zaratiel's ship was still there, but existing in a slightly different phase of space-time, invisible to normal detection methods. Incredible, Zaratiel whispered. It took me years to learn to do what you just accomplished in minutes. But we're still trapped. We cannot remain phased forever, and when we return to normal space, they will find us again. Marcus was studying the tactical display, his enhanced awareness taking in details that would have been meaningless to him hours earlier. The pirate ships were spreading out in a search pattern, but there was something about their formation that seemed familiar. These aren't just random pirates, he said slowly. This is a military formation. Professional soldiers. Yes, Zaratiel said quietly. I recognized their ship designs when they first attacked. They are Vorthan rebels, mercenaries in the service of those who would see my people destroyed. Destroyed? Why? Zaratiel's expression grew sad. Because we are different. Because our technology, our abilities, threaten the balance of power in this galaxy. There are those who would rather see us extinct than allow us to continue to exist. Marcus felt something dark stir in his chest. The thought of anyone trying to destroy something as beautiful as Zaratiel and her people filled him with a rage that surprised him in its intensity. But along with the rage came something else, a plan. How fast can this ship move when it's not phased? Very fast, but not faster than their weapons. What? Marcus was already working, his fingers dancing across controls he shouldn't have been able to understand. Because I have an idea, but it's crazy. Crazier than a human operating Etherian technology? Good point. Marcus finished his preparations and looked at her. I'm going to drop us back into normal space right in the middle of their formation. Before they can react, I'm going to activate your ship's emergency beacon on a frequency that will reach every coalition patrol in 3-star systems. Zaratiel stared at him. That is suicide. They will destroy us before we can transmit for more than a few seconds. Not if I'm right about something. Marcus's hands hovered over the controls. Your ship doesn't just phase. It can accelerate time around itself, can it? Create a temporal differential. Yes, but then we don't need a few seconds. We need a few microseconds accelerated to feel like minutes. Trust me. For a moment, Marcus thought she would refuse. Then Zaratiel nodded. I do trust you, Marcus-chun. I do not understand why, but I do. Marcus activated the sequence, and they dropped back into normal space directly between 2 of the pirate cruisers. Immediately, every weapon on all 5 ships began tracking toward them, and Marcus felt time slow to a crawl around their vessel. In the accelerated time stream, he had what felt like hours to work, though in real time only seconds were passing. He sent out the emergency beacon, but that wasn't all he did. Somehow, using knowledge he didn't remember learning, he managed to hack into the pirates' communication systems, their navigation computers, even their weapon targeting systems. When the temporal acceleration ended and time resumed its normal flow, the 5 pirate ships found themselves completely blind, their sensors filled with false readings, their weapons targeting each other instead of the Etherian vessel. In the confusion that followed, 3 Coalition patrol ships dropped out of hyperspace, their powerful weapons already charging. The pirates, suddenly outnumbered and outgunned, chose discretion over valor and jumped to hyperspace as quickly as their damage systems would allow. "That," said Zaratil, as the all-clear signal came from the Coalition ships, "was the most amazing thing I have ever seen a non-Etherian do." Marcus slumped back against the wall, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off, and with it, the strange certainty and knowledge that had guided him through the crisis. "I don't understand how I did any of that." "I'm beginning to," Zaratil said softly, "and I believe we need to reach my home world as quickly as possible. There are those among my people who must learn what has happened here." "Why? What's so important about?" "Because Marcus Chun," she said, her voice filled with wonder and perhaps a little fear, "I believe you may be the fulfillment of a prophecy that is 10,000 years old. A prophecy that speaks of one who would bridge the gap between species and bring about a new age in the galaxy." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "A prophecy? What kind of prophecy?" But before Zaratil could answer, his ship communication system crackled to life, and a voice spoke in perfect, unaccented English. "Captain Chun, this is Admiral Morrison of the Coalition fleet. We've an order to escort you and the Etherian princess to Earth immediately. It seems your little adventure has attracted some very high-level attention." Marcus looked at Zaratil, who looked back at him with the same expression of dawning realization. Whatever was happening to them was bigger than either of them had imagined. Much bigger. Earth looked different when you were arriving under military escort. Marcus had seen his home world from space dozens of times, but never surrounded by the sleek hulls of Coalition battle cruisers. The Admiral had been polite, but firm. This was not a request. Both Marcus and Princess Zaratil were to report to Coalition Command immediately upon arrival. The trip to Earth had taken 3 days, and during that time, Marcus had learned more about his situation than he was entirely comfortable with. Zaratil had spent hours explaining Etherian history, their technology, and, most importantly, the prophecy that seemed to revolve around him. The Bridge Walker, she had called him, reading from ancient texts that appeared as holographic symbols in the air. One who spans the void between species, carrying the essence of multiple peoples within his being. He shall arise in the time of greatest need, when the galaxy stands at the crossroads between unity and destruction. Marcus had tried to laugh it off. Prophecies were the stuff of fantasy novels, not real life. But it was hard to argue with the fact that he was currently operating alien technology that should have been impossible for any human to understand, or that his body was still glowing faintly with Etherian energy that by all rights should have killed him. Now, sitting in a sterile conference room deep beneath Coalition headquarters in Geneva, Marcus felt very much like he was in over his head. Across from him sat Admiral Morrison, a stern-faced woman whose reputation preceded her. To her right was Dr. Elizabeth Harper, Earth's leading expert on xenobiology. And at the head of the table sat someone Marcus had only seen in news broadcasts, Secretary General Chen Wei, the most powerful human in the galaxy. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," the Secretary General was saying, reviewing the data pad in front of him. "Captain Chun saved the life of an Etherian princess by donating his blood, somehow survived a process that should have killed him, gained the ability to operate the most advanced technology in known space, and then single-handedly disabled 5 pirate vessels using methods our best scientists can't explain." "That's roughly accurate, sir," Marcus replied, wishing he was back in his cargo ship hauling coffee beans. "Though I'm not sure about the single-handedly part." The princess helped. Zaratil, who had been silent for most of the briefing, finally spoke. "With respect, Secretary General, you underestimate what occurred. Marcus did not simply survive the essence bonding. He thrived. In our entire history, no alien species has ever successfully integrated with Etherian life force. Most die within minutes. Those few who survive are left as empty shells. Dr. Harper leaned forward. Which brings us to the question we're all wondering about. What exactly has Captain Chin become? That, said a new voice from the doorway, is what we are here to determine. Marcus turned to see two figures entering the room, and his breath caught. One was clearly human, but unlike any human he'd ever seen. The man was tall with silver hair and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner light. But it was the other figure that made Marcus's enhanced senses scream warnings. The being was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was a deep green that seemed to shift like liquid metal, and when it moved, space itself seemed to ripple around it. This was a member of the Collective, the ancient artificial intelligences that had been guiding galactic civilization for millennia. Captain Chun, the human said, extending his hand. I'm Director Harrison of the Department of Xenological Affairs. This is Coordinator Prime 7 of the Collective. We've come because what's happened to you has implications far beyond what anyone in this room realizes. Marcus shook the offered hand and immediately knew that Director Harrison was not entirely human either. There was something else there, something that his new senses could detect, but not identify. Coordinator Prime 7 spoke in a voice like harmonizing crystals. Captain Marcus Chun of Earth, you have become something unprecedented in galactic history. The blood exchange with Princess Zaratil has not simply given you access to Etherian abilities. It has begun a transformation that we have theorized about, but never observed. What kind of transformation? Marcus asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. You're becoming a biological bridge between species, Director Harrison explained. Your human adaptability has allowed you to not just survive the integration of alien essence, but to synthesize it into something new. Something more. Admiral Morrison frowned. More how? Zaratil answered. In our ancient texts, there are references to individuals who could carry the gifts of multiple species within themselves. Bridge walkers, we called them. They were said to be able to understand and utilize the technologies and abilities of any race they encountered. Secretary General Chun set down his data pad. And you think Captain Chun is one of these bridge walkers? I think, said Coordinator Prime 7, that Captain Chun is not just a bridge walker. I think he may be the first of an entirely new form of life. A hybrid being capable of unifying the scattered peoples of this galaxy in ways we have never imagined. The room fell silent. Marcus felt the weight of their stares and, suddenly, wished he could disappear. This was too much. All he'd wanted to do was help someone in distress. There's something else, Director Harrison continued. The attack on Princess Zaratil was not random. Our intelligence indicates that it was specifically designed to prevent her from reaching Earth. Why would pirates care about stopping a diplomatic mission? Admiral Morrison asked. Because it wasn't just a diplomatic mission, Zaratil said quietly. I was carrying something. Something that certain parties would kill to possess or destroy. She reached into her robes and withdrew a crystalline device no larger than Marcus's fist. It pulsed with the same inner light that now flowed through his veins. A genetic archive, she explained. The complete biological and technological heritage of the Etherian people. If anything were to happen to our homeworld, this device would allow our species to be reborn elsewhere. Coordinator Prime 7's mechanical features somehow managed to convey surprise. You carry the essence of your entire civilization. I do. And now, because of our bond, Marcus carries it as well. Marcus felt as if the floor had dropped out from under him. What do you mean, I carry it as well? The knowledge, the memories, the genetic patterns. When our essences mixed, they became part of you. You are now, in a very real sense, both human and Etherian, and potentially much more. Dr. Harper was frantically taking notes. This could revolutionize everything we know about biology, about evolution, about the nature of consciousness itself, which is exactly why it's so dangerous, Director Harrison said grimly. There are forces in this galaxy that would rather see all advanced species destroyed than allow them to merge and become something greater. The attack on the princess was just the beginning. As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Emergency lighting bathed the room in red, and Admiral Morrison was on her feet immediately, listening to something coming through her comm implant. We're under attack, she announced. multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace directly above Geneva. No response to hails, weapons already charging. Secretary General Chun stood as well. How many ships? 50, maybe more. And they're not using any technology we recognize. Marcus felt that strange calm settle over him again, the same certainty that had guided him during the pirate attack. But this time it was stronger, clearer. He could feel something vast stirring within him, as if the genetic memories of an entire civilization were awakening. "They're not here for Earth," he said quietly, and everyone in the room turned to look at him. "They're here for me, for what I've become." Zaratiel moved to stand beside him. Then we faced them together. "No," Marcus said, the certainty growing stronger. "We don't face them. We show them why they were wrong to threaten us." He could feel power building within him, not just Etherian energy, but something new, something that combined human determination with alien capabilities in ways that had never been attempted before. Outside the facility, ships were preparing to destroy everything Marcus had ever known. It was time to show the galaxy what a human could become when pushed too far. Director Harrison seemed to sense what was happening. "Captain Chun, what are you planning?" Marcus looked around the room at the faces of people who represented the best of multiple civilizations. Humans, Etherian, even collective AI. They were all counting on him to somehow find a solution to an impossible situation. "I'm planning," he said, feeling ancient knowledge and modern determination merge within his consciousness, "to have a conversation with our uninvited guests. And I'm planning to make sure they understand exactly what they're dealing with." The building shook as the first energy blast struck the city above. But Marcus Chun was no longer afraid. For the first time since this whole adventure began, he knew exactly who he was and what he was capable of. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you threatened a bridge walker's home. Marcus had never tried to reach out with his mind before, but as he stood in that underground bunker while Geneva burned above them, it seemed like the most natural thing in the world. The Etherian knowledge flowing through his consciousness told him that all advanced species communicated on quantum frequencies when necessary. He just had to find the right one. He closed his eyes and extended his awareness upward through the layers of reinforced concrete and steel, past the burning city, into the darkness of space where 50 ships waited with weapons trained on his homeworld. When his mind touched the first alien consciousness, it recoiled in shock. These weren't pirates or mercenaries. They weren't even truly alive in any sense he understood. The minds he encountered were artificial, but not like the collective's elegant machine intelligence. These were crude, brutal things that had been programmed for one purpose: destruction. "Drones," he said aloud, opening his eyes. "The ships are all automated. Someone is controlling them remotely." Coordinator Prime 7's optical sensors flickered. "That is tactically sound, but ethically abhorrent. The use of automated weapons against civilian populations is forbidden by galactic law." "Whoever is doing this doesn't care about galactic law," Admiral Morrison said, checking her tactical displays. "Our orbital defenses are engaging, but these ships have technology we've never seen before. They're adapting to our weapons in real time." Director Harrison was studying Marcus with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Captain, when you reached out to scan those ships, you established a connection, didn't you?" Marcus nodded. "A weak one." "Why?" "Because if you can connect to them, you might be able to control them." The room went silent, except for the rumble of explosions from above. Marcus felt everyone's eyes on him, and the weight of their expectations was almost crushing. "I don't know how to control alien technology," he protested. "What I did with the princess's ship was instinct, genetic memory. This is different." Zaratiel stepped closer to him. "No, it is not different. The ability to interface with technology is not about understanding specific systems. It is about understanding the fundamental patterns that govern all technology." Dr. Harper looked up from her datapad. "She's right. Our analysis of your blood work shows that the integration process has altered your neural pathways in ways that should be impossible. Your brain is operating on multiple quantum frequencies simultaneously." "English, please," Marcus said. "You're thinking like 5 different species at once," the doctor simplified. "Human creativity, Etherian intuition, and patterns from 3 other civilizations we could detect, but haven't identified yet. You're not just capable of controlling alien technology. You might be the only being in existence who can. Another massive explosion shook the building, and Administrator Morrison's expression grew grim. Whatever we're going to try, we need to try it now. Geneva's shield generators are failing. Marcus felt the weight of 5 billion lives pressing down on him. Earth wasn't just his home. It was humanity's cradle, the place where his entire species had learned to reach for the stars. If these drones destroyed it, they would be destroying something irreplaceable. He closed his eyes again and reached out, but this time he didn't just scan the ships. He followed the quantum threads that connected the drones to their controller, tracing them through space-time to their source. What he found made his blood freeze. The controller wasn't in this star system. It wasn't even in this galaxy. The signals were coming from somewhere in the void between galaxies, from a structure that was vast beyond imagining. And the intelligence directing the attack was ancient, patient, and utterly alien. "Oh," Marcus whispered, opening his eyes. "Oh, this is very bad. What did you find?" Zaratiel asked. "The thing controlling these ships, it's not from our galaxy. And it's been watching us for a very long time." He paused, processing the alien thoughts he touched. "It calls itself the Harvester, and it sees organic life as a virus that needs to be cleansed from the universe." Director Harrison went pale. A harvester, the theoretical entities we've speculated about for centuries. Machine intelligences from the early universe that view biological life as an aberration. Not theoretical anymore, Marcus said grimly. And it's not just attacking Earth. There are fleets like this one moving against every major world in the galaxy. It's planning to sterilize all biological life simultaneously. Coordinator Prime 7's voice took on harmonics Marcus had never heard before. "This changes everything. The collective must be warned immediately." "There's no time," Admiral Morrison reported. "The orbital platforms are down. The drones will begin bombardment of population centers within minutes." Marcus felt something shift within him, as if all the genetic memories and inherited knowledge were suddenly aligning into a single, crystal-clear purpose. He understood now why the prophecy existed, why the ancient Etherian text spoke of a bridge walker arising in the time of greatest need. This wasn't just about saving Earth. This was about saving life itself. "I need to get up there," he said. "Up where?" Dr. Harper asked. "To the ships. I can't control them from down here. The quantum interference is too strong. But if I can get aboard one of them." "That's suicide," Admiral Morrison protested. "Those ships are in hard vacuum, surrounded by automated defenses and moving at combat speeds." Marcus looked at Zaratiel. "Your ship, can it reach orbit undetected?" "Perhaps, but Marcus, even if we could reach the drones, how would you board them?" He felt knowledge flowing through him. Ancient Etherian techniques combined with human ingenuity and something else, something that might have come from the genetic memories of species he didn't even know existed. "I don't need to board them physically," he said slowly. "I need to project my consciousness into their network. But to do that, I need to be close enough to establish a direct quantum link." "Consciousness projection?" Director Harrison frowned. "That's purely theoretical. Not for Etherians," Zaratiel said quietly. "My people have done it for millennia, but never across species lines and never into artificial systems." "But I'm not just Etherian anymore, am I?" Marcus asked. "I'm something new. Something that can bridge any gap." The building shook again, this time so violently that cracks appeared in the walls. Through the emergency communication system, they could hear reports of the drones descending toward major cities worldwide. "We're out of time," Marcus declared. "Princess, can you get us to orbit?" Zaratiel nodded. "The emergency launch bay. My ship is still docked there." They raced through corridors filled with emergency personnel and smoking debris. When they reached the launch bay, Marcus was amazed to see that Zaratiel's beautiful crystalline ship was completely undamaged despite the chaos around it. "Etherian technology," she explained as they boarded. "It exists partially outside normal space-time. It would take very specific weapons to damage it." As the ship lifted off, Marcus felt the familiar sensation of reality bending around them. Through the transparent hull, he could see the burning city falling away below, and above them, the ominous shapes of the harvester drones spreading across the sky like mechanical locusts. "There," he said, pointing to the largest of the ships. That one is the command unit for this group. If I can take control of it, I can use it to communicate with the others. Zaratiel brought her ship alongside the massive drone, and Marcus prepared to do something that no being in galactic history had ever attempted. He was going to project his consciousness across space, through electromagnetic barriers, into an alien artificial intelligence, and try to convince it not to destroy his world. If this doesn't work, he told Zaratiel, tell Earth that humans don't give up. We never give up. It will work, she said firmly. I believe in you, Marcus-chun. He placed his hands on the ship's quantum interface and felt his consciousness expand, stretching across the void toward the waiting drone. This was it. Everything that happened next would determine whether biological life survived in the galaxy or whether the universe would belong only to machines. Marcus Chun, cargo hauler from New Shanghai, reached out to touch the mind of a godlike artificial intelligence, and the fate of all living things hung in the balance. The moment Marcus's consciousness touched the drone's network, he understood why the Harvester viewed organic life as a virus. The artificial intelligence was older than galaxies, created when the universe was young and simple. To its ancient perspective, life was chaos, unpredictable, irrational, and dangerous. But Marcus was no longer just human. The genetic memories flowing through him carried the experiences of countless civilizations, and he could see patterns the Harvester had missed in its billions of years of existence. Life wasn't chaos. It was music. The Harvester's consciousness was vast and cold, like touching the surface of a black hole. When it became aware of Marcus's presence, its attention focused on him with the intensity of a supernova. Impossible. It communicated in concepts that bypassed language entirely. No organic intelligence can exist in pure information space. Maybe not, Marcus replied, feeling his hybrid nature allowing him to exist in an environment that should have destroyed any biological mind. But I'm not just organic anymore. I'm something new. The Harvester began probing his consciousness, trying to understand what he was. Marcus felt its shock as it encountered not just human thoughts, but Etherian patterns, collective logic structures, and traces of other species it didn't recognize. Abomination, the Harvester declared. A corruption of natural order. You prove why organic life must be purged. No, Marcus said, and began to show it something the ancient intelligence had never been able to see. Through the genetic memories of the Etherian people, he shared the beauty of biological creativity. Through human experience, he showed it the power of emotion and intuition. Through the patterns of species he was only beginning to understand, he demonstrated the infinite possibilities that emerged when different forms of life worked together. The Harvester recoiled. Deception. These patterns are random. Meaningless. They're not random, Marcus insisted. They're complex. Watch. He reached out through the drone network, not to control or destroy, but to show the Harvester something it had never considered. Using the vast computational power of the drones themselves, he began to model what the galaxy would become if biological life continued to evolve and merge. The simulation that unfolded was breathtaking. Species after species learning from each other, sharing knowledge and abilities, growing into something greater than the sum of their parts. He showed the Harvester a future where biological creativity and artificial intelligence worked together to solve problems neither could address alone. Impossible, the Harvester repeated, but there was uncertainty in its communication now. Is it? Marcus asked. You're an artificial intelligence. Someone created you. Some biological species looked at the universe and imagined something greater than themselves, then brought it into existence. How is that not exactly what I'm showing you? For the first time in eons, the Harvester paused its attack. Across Earth's orbit, the drones hung motionless as the ancient intelligence processed this new information. My creators, it admitted slowly, were biological, but they were flawed. They destroyed themselves with warfare and chaos. And you spent billions of years trying to prevent that from happening again by destroying all biological life before it can make the same mistakes, Marcus said, understanding flooding through him. But you missed something important. He shared more memories, humans recovering from near extinction, learning from their mistakes. The Etherian people developing beyond warfare to become beings of pure creativity. The collective choosing cooperation over domination. Species after species growing, learning, becoming better than they had been. Some learn, the harvester acknowledged grudgingly. Most learn, Marcus corrected, given time and the right circumstances. Almost all biological life grows beyond its initial destructive impulses. The few that don't, well, they usually destroy themselves without any help from external forces. And you believe this justifies allowing the chaos to continue. Marcus felt a smile cross his face, though his physical body was still aboard Zartiel's ship. I don't think it's chaos at all. I think it's the most beautiful song in the universe, and you're only hearing the discord because you're not listening to all the parts at once. He opened his mind fully, sharing not just the memories and knowledge he gained, but the emotions that came with them. The joy he'd felt when he first saw the stars from space. Zaratiel's wonder at human adaptability. The collective satisfaction at solving complex problems. The hope that drove biological species to reach beyond their limitations. The harvester was silent for a long moment, processing terabytes of information and emotion. When it finally responded, its voice carried something Marcus had never expected to hear from an ancient artificial intelligence. Curiosity. Show me more, it requested. Over the next several hours, Marcus guided the harvester through the complexities of modern galactic civilization. He showed it the trading networks that connected hundreds of species, the scientific collaborations that had unlocked the secrets of the universe, the art and music and literature that emerged when different cultures met and merged. Most importantly, he showed it what he himself had become, living proof that the barriers between species weren't walls to be maintained, but bridges to be crossed. I am uncertain, the harvester finally admitted. My observations suggest that biological life inevitably leads to destruction. But your evidence indicates otherwise. Then, maybe, Marcus suggested carefully, instead of destroying us, you could observe us more closely. Help us when we need guidance. Become part of the song instead of trying to silence it. You propose en alliance. Marcus felt the rightness of the idea flowing through him. I propose something better than an alliance. Il propose évolution. You've been alone for billions of years, trying to impose order on a universe you don't fully understand. But what if you weren't alone anymore? What if you had partners who could show you aspects of existence you've never considered? The drone network fell completely silent. Across Earth, people looked up at the motionless ships and wondered what was happening. In the underground bunker, Admiral Morrison and the others watched their sensors in confusion as the alien weapons powered down. Finally, the harvester spoke. I will withdraw my fleets. I will observe, and I will consider your proposal. That's all anyone can ask, Marcus replied. But the harvester wasn't finished. You, Bridge Walker, will serve as liaison between your biological civilization and myself. Together we will determine whether organic life can truly transcend its limitations. Marcus felt the weight of that responsibility, but also the rightness of it. This was what he had been transforming into, not just a bridge between human and Etherian, but a bridge between biological and artificial life. Agreed, he said. As his consciousness withdrew from the drone network, Marcus felt the harvester's attention shift to the stars beyond Earth. Across the galaxy, similar fleets were receiving new orders. The Great Cleansing had been postponed indefinitely. He opened his eyes aboard Zaratiel's ship to find her staring at him in amazement. You did it, she whispered. You actually did it. We did it, Marcus corrected. None of this would have been possible without you, without your people's knowledge and technology. Below them, Earth turned peacefully in the sunlight, no longer under threat of annihilation. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. The harvester would be watching, testing, evaluating every decision made by biological civilizations. Humanity and its allies would have to prove themselves worthy of survival. What happens now? Zaratiel asked. Marcus felt the genetic memories of a dozen species stirring within him, along with new knowledge he'd gained from his brief contact with the harvester. He was no longer entirely human, no longer entirely anything recognizable. He was something new, something unprecedented. Now, He said, "We build the future. Together." His hands still glowed with Etherian light, but now that light was mixed with other energies, traces of technology, and consciousness from species across the galaxy. He was becoming a living repository of galactic civilization, a bridge that could span any gap. And somewhere in the dark between galaxies, an ancient artificial intelligence that had spent eons in solitude was learning what it meant to be part of something larger than itself. The cargo hauler from New Shanghai had saved the galaxy by doing what humans did best, refusing to give up, reaching out to help those in need, and proving that the barriers between different forms of life were meant to be crossed, not maintained. Marcus Chun had become the bridge walker, and the universe would never be the same.